When my cousin Cody and I were in our early 20s, we went on several camping trips around Colorado. I think this happened when I was 22 and he was 23, and it took place in Arapahoe Forest. It was my first time camping there, although it wasn't Cody's. It was in the middle of the week, as our jobs gave us days off during the week. We usually took these days to go camping to avoid traffic in the large crowds. I always let Cody take the lead on these trips. He's the Eagle Scout, not me. We parked near a picnic area and began our hike into the woods from there. After about 15 minutes of walking deeper into the forest, we found a good spot to set up camp. A good spot meant a large enough clearing to fit 2 tents, a portable stove, and a campfire. The first thing we did was unpack our gear and set up our tents. Cody has always been faster than me at putting up a tent. He can do it in just a few minutes. It always took me over 20 minutes. Or rather, it always used to take me that long, as I haven't camped in the wilderness since then. The next task was to create a stone ring for the fire and gather sticks and wood. He brought fire starter and a lighter, so we kind of cheated, but whatever. By this time, the sun was starting to set. We had a fire going, and Cody was grilling up steaks and burgers. One thing about Cody is he always went all out with food on these trips, and he's a really good cook. So I always relied on him to feed us. Of course, we had our bear spray just in case the smell of the food attracted a black bear, though Cody always said that was highly unlikely. He always said the real danger in the woods was other people. As we enjoyed our steak and burgers, we cracked open some beers and played classic rock on the speaker. If you've never been camping, you don't understand how great moments like these are, out in the wilderness with a friend or family, some beers, reminiscing and vibing to music. As it got dark, we started playing card games at the folding table we brought specifically for cards. After playing traditional card games, we switched to Uno, and that's when we heard something in the woods. I paused the music on my phone so the speaker went silent. It became clear. We could hear a person humming and footsteps coming from beyond the trees in the pitch-black forest. Cody urged me to find the flashlight. I searched, but by the time I had it, the sounds had faded away. I asked Cody if it was something we should be worried about, and he said it was definitely strange for someone to be that far into the woods, let alone walking eerily by a campsite with a loud, active campfire. I was a little rattled, and I could tell Cody was too. We went back to playing cards, keeping the music much quieter now. When we least expected it, a large stick landed right in the middle of our campsite, making us both jump out of our skin. It didn't fall from a tree. Someone had thrown it at us. Cody started shouting something like, "Whoever's out there messing with us, get a life and fuck us off." And then we heard footsteps again in the distance. They were moving away from us. I suggested we pack up and move to another spot. He said absolutely not in the dark. We both had bear spray, and he suggested we keep it close in our tents when we went to sleep. It was the closest thing to a ranged self-defense weapon we had. We kept hearing noises like tree branches cracking in the distance, sounds that you wouldn't expect an animal to make. Someone was out there, maybe even more than one person. That much was clear. Eventually, we had to try to sleep. So we decided that one of us should stay awake and keep watch to make sure no one would come to our campsite and steal anything, or worse. Cody agreed to take the first watch, he said he would stay up and read his book. So I crawled into my tent, snuggled into my sleeping bag, and went to sleep. Waking up in the middle of the night while camping is normal. You're in a cold outdoor environment, lying in an uncomfortable sleeping bag. Any number of things could wake you. I didn't know what had woken me yet. My mind was still in a fog, not fully awake. I looked up and saw a head looking into my tent. It looked like Cody. I rubbed my eyes, but the darkness made it hard to make out his face. I asked, "Cody?" thinking he was waking me up to take my turn on watch. Groggily, I asked, "Is it my turn?" I stared at the head looking at me from my sleeping bag, slowly becoming more awake with each passing second. Then I heard the zipper of the tent quickly zip up, and the head disappeared. I lay back down in my sleeping bag, but only for a second. Suddenly, I had this strange moment of clarity, and I shot upright, listening as the footsteps moved away. "Cody?" I called out. He didn't answer. I unzipped my tent to peek out at the campsite. The fire was out. Cody wasn't out there. I went to Cody's tent, which was zipped up. I unzipped it and looked inside to find Cody fast asleep in his sleeping bag. I got chills, goosebumps, whatever you want to call it. I almost lost it at the realization. I started shaking him awake, and when he finally opened his eyes, I told him someone was here at the campsite. It took him a minute to snap back to reality just like I had. But once he did, he grabbed his bear spray. He said he must have dozed off while reading. He suggested I sleep in his tent with him tonight, but I'd need my sleeping bag for that. He came outside with me and kept watch while I ran to my tent to grab it. As I was getting my sleeping bag, I heard that damn humming again from outside. I grabbed it, and Cody whispered for me to hurry up. I asked, "You hear that too?" He said yes. We both got back into his tent and zipped it up with our bear spray cans by our sides. I'll tell you, at that moment, I wanted nothing more than for a bear to come and take care of things. The hours seemed to drag on as I stayed awake while Cody slept. After 3 long, dreadful hours, I woke him up, and we switched. When Cody woke me up, it was nearly dawn. There was light outside, so we packed everything up, and by the time we were finished, there was enough daylight to hike back to the car. While we could have driven somewhere else for another night of camping, neither of us felt like it anymore. This had been a disturbing experience, and I think we both just wanted to be in the safety of our homes. It's been 6 years since that happened, and he's reached out a few times about camping since then, but I haven't really been interested since that experience. People are just too terrifying. Why was someone out there stalking our campsite? And that sight of that person's head in the dark just staring into my tent. It was straight out of a nightmare. I might never go camping again, honestly. When my friends and I rented a beach house in Florida, I never could have guessed how things would turn out. It was the 4 of us in a cramped car driving down there. The house was right on the beach. It sat on this road with the bay across the street in front of it, and in the backyard, it was literally the beach. There were some huge houses on this road and some smaller, more ordinary ones. This one was one of the smaller, more modest-looking ones. It had 4 bedrooms, so one for each of us. The houses were spaced out along the road, offering some privacy, and the whole time we were unloading the car, not a single car passed by. The interior of the house was decent. It wasn't spectacular, but it was clean, modest, and the owners really pushed the beach theme with the wall decor. I guess that made sense given the location. There was even a surfboard decoration in one corner of the living room behind the TV. The living room overlooked the back deck, which then led to the beach. The view was breathtaking. The deck wasn't raised very high off the ground. It was just 2 steps down to the sand. We each claimed our rooms. I managed to get a room with a beach view. The first thing we did after getting settled was, of course, head outside and relax on the beach. We all went into the water at one point and played some football. We definitely spent a few hours on the beach. We seemed to be the only ones there, aside from an older couple further down the beach. Afterward, we went out for dinner and then started bar hopping in the town. When we took the Uber back, it was already dark. We went back out on the beach to mess around and play late-night football while we were a little drunk. As I ran to catch the ball after missing it, I saw something in the water. The moon reflecting on the ocean was the only reason I noticed it. I said, "What the heck is that?" out loud, and then realized it was a person standing waist-deep in the water. My friends looked over and confirmed they saw it too. It was only a bit odd because of the time. It was past midnight. But hey, if a local wants to go for a midnight swim, that's their choice. We then went to sit on the deck and drink beer for a while until we got tired. One by one, everyone went inside to sleep. My friend John and I were the last ones out there. I had been occasionally glancing toward the water where I'd seen that person earlier just out of curiosity. So eventually, when I looked in that direction again, I noticed someone standing on the beach. They were just standing there facing us. It was a bit unsettling, maybe a neighbor. I didn't want to be rude, but I couldn't help wondering if it was the same person. We tried to ignore it, but John, who was facing them, eventually said they were still just standing there staring at us. I stood up and looked over, and he was right. I shouted, "Is everything okay?" John asked why I'd done that. Honestly, I didn't know what I was expecting. They didn't say anything in response. At that point, we were both officially creeped out. So we went inside. Travis and Liam had already retreated to their rooms, likely passed out from drinking. So John and I decided to call it a night as well, hoping to have a full day tomorrow. If I had to guess, it was somewhere between 12:30 and 1 a.m., which was pretty early. But we were all exhausted from the long day. After brushing my teeth, I headed to my room. I looked out the window, wanting one last view of the ocean before crawling into bed. This is where things started to get seriously unsettling, because now there was someone standing in front of the back deck, facing the house. It felt like they were staring at my window. The person looked to be male, based on their slightly bigger frame. It was definitely the same person from earlier. I called out to John. He didn't respond, so I rushed to his room and knocked on his door, telling him to come out. He came out quickly, and I led him to my window to show him outside, but by the time we got there, the person was gone. I insisted to John that the same person had been standing there just like before, right in front of our deck. He believed me. We weren't about to go outside and check, though. I took one more look to make sure the person was really gone, then closed the bedroom blinds. But as I lay in bed, tossing and turning, trying to fall asleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still out there. Who was that person? Why were they lurking around? My thoughts were interrupted by the chilling sound of a fist knocking on the bedroom window. I felt my stomach drop, and my heart nearly stopped. I lay frozen in terror. A moment later, a softer set of knocks came again. I didn't dare pull the blinds open. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I almost shouted, "Who's there?" But I stopped myself. Instead, I ran out to the living room, yelling for everyone to wake up. One by one, they came out of their rooms. There was no one at the window when we checked. We all went out to the deck and turned on the lights. We looked toward the beach, but didn't see anyone. We also checked the front and sides of the house. Nothing. John and I had to fill the others in on what they missed while they were asleep. We kept the backyard lights on that night. The next day, John and I visited the two nearest neighbors to ask if anyone had knocked on their windows or doors. One of them told us about a genuinely disturbing experience he had the week before. Someone had knocked on his door in the middle of the night. When he asked who it was, they didn't answer and just kept knocking. So he decided not to open the door. I'm not sure if it was related, but if it was, that makes this even more terrifying. We spent the rest of the day at the beach, exploring nearby towns and visiting bars. Nothing unusual happened that night. The next day, we left. I still wonder what I would have seen if I had lifted the blinds. I was only 9 when this took place. For some reason, I found myself home alone one evening. So I was upstairs in my room playing video games. My mom always told me not to answer the door when I was by myself. Whenever I was left alone, it was never for long. She would just be out doing things like grocery shopping. I was playing Metroid Prime on my GameCube. I used to be obsessed with that game. Then I heard the house phone ringing downstairs. My mom always told me to pick it up if it rang in case it was her calling. So I hurried downstairs, and by about the 4th ring, I answered. The caller ID showed my mom's cell number. She said, "Sweetie, can you come outside and help with the groceries?" I replied, "Mom?" She responded, "Yes." But something about her voice sounded off. You can always recognize your own mom's voice. Even at such a young age, I felt something wasn't right. I asked, "Why do you sound like that?" She replied, "Like what, sweetie?" And then I hung up. My mom never called me sweetie like that, especially not twice in a few seconds. The phone rang again, and once again, her number appeared on the caller ID. I ignored it. For some reason, my heart was racing. I was feeling anxious. I sat in the kitchen waiting to see if the phone would ring again. It did. It took a couple of minutes, but when I checked the caller ID, it was a different number this time. I picked up, and a man's voice came through saying, "Hey, James, I know this is going to sound strange, but it's your dad." I'm outside. All I could say was a weak, "What?" The man repeated, "I'm outside. I have a lot to explain." I hung up right away. My dad passed away when I was 3. I have no memories of him. My suspicion was confirmed. The first voice I heard was not my mom's. The phone rang again, and then again after that. I ignored each one. I couldn't even call my mom because someone clearly had her phone. Then things got even worse when I heard knocking at the front door. This went from a "someone has my mom's phone" issue to a "someone is outside the house" problem. My mom wouldn't be knocking on the door. She would obviously have a key. I peered around the kitchen wall to check the front door. I heard a man's muffled voice on the other side calling my name. He was saying, "It's your dad." Then the doorbell rang, and I heard him trying to open the door. I did something no 9-year-old should ever have to do. I grabbed the phone and dialed 911. The operator asked me what seemed like routine questions. Most importantly, she told me to wait in a bathroom or another room with a lockable door until the police arrived. The bathroom was on the first floor, so I hid there with the lights off. Whoever was outside moved to the window and tried to open it. I could hear the whole struggle. Then they must have moved to the next window. I think they tried every window and door in the house. If anything had been unlocked, this story would have ended very differently. Eventually, they must have given up before the police came. I say they because it was clear there were two people involved, a man and a woman. Both could have been out there for all I knew. The operator told me that the police were at the front door and it was safe to meet them there. I only hung up the phone when I opened the door to the police. They quickly searched both inside and outside the house, asking where my mom was and if she knew anyone who might want to harm us. I think I said she was grocery shopping or something, and that I didn't know of anyone who'd want to hurt us. My mom came home with my little sister, panicking when she saw the police cars outside. My mom's phone had been stolen, which was already obvious. I'm sure our address, home phone number, and other personal information were stored somewhere on the phone, easily accessible. But how they knew my name? I'm not sure. Something on my mom's phone must have given them a clue. It was an old Nokia flip phone. Who took it was a mystery. But the background on my mom's phone was a picture of her with my little sister and me. That could have been a sign to some creepy couple that the phone's owner was a single mom with 2 young kids, and they tried using that to trick me into coming outside, which is beyond disturbing. The phone must have been destroyed after they failed to lure me out. Things were different after that. My mom never left me alone at night again, at least not until I was a little older.